A brand is something that, it's something that's going to tell your story when you're not in the room. My friend Stephen A. Hart taught me that. And today's episode, I get an opportunity to interview a branding expert. Her name is Lindsay Pedersen. She has a book called Forging an Ironclad Brand. And again, I honestly believe that even if you're a sales rep, you need to have your own brand. If you're an entrepreneur, you definitely need to have your own brand. But we make a lot of assumptions and mistakes when it comes towards branding. We think, it's for big companies, or we have a website, we have a logo. Lindsay is going to diffuse all of that today and share with you why it's so important and how easy it is for you to develop your own brand. A good brand, an ironclad brand. Check it out. This episode is brought to you in part by mailtag.io. It's a Chrome browser extension that notifies you when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. Go ahead and check out a 14-day trial with Mailtag. Simply go to mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program, a course designed to help sellers elevate their sales game, find more ideal customers, build stronger value, and close more deals. To check out our upcoming semester or to go ahead and take a free trial, go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and we have Lindsay Pedersen on the podcast. She's a brand strategist and a best-selling author of Forging an Ironclad Brand. Lindsay breaks down branding so that anyone can understand. She has a wealth of knowledge. She has years of experience working with large organizations, and she's going to break down and give us insights that can help us not only as an organization or as a business, but as an individual trying desperately to create our own brand and to forge our own path. Check it out. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
It is so good to be here with you, Donald. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you. And we were just talking about your book, and that's what we're going to focus a lot on today, Forging an Ironclad Brand. And this is a leader's guide, but it doesn't matter who's listening to this, whether you're a sales rep or an entrepreneur, they can get a lot from it. And I'm excited to pick your brains on that. But before we dive into all that fun stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, Lindsay?
You got it. Yeah, so I'm a brand strategist and I work with leaders, typically CEOs or other P&L owners, general managers. Sometimes that's the CMO, CRO sometimes, to define what is the single idea that their business stands for. And I came to this through consumer packaged goods, where this is an industry where our products are fairly parity. And so our brand is the way that we differentiate. And it's not a nice to have. It's truly the core source of differentiation for the business, and therefore the core source of value creation for the business. So I'm very passionate about working with leaders to help them harness that same idea that business leaders who have to use brand employ every day as kind of hygiene part of building their business, is that they're going to zero in on this crystallized, single-minded idea of what they're going to stand for to their audience.
Love it. Now, branding, this is, when people hear this, I mean, there's so many different things that probably going through their mind, but would you be willing to share with us your definition and breaking that down for us?
You got it. Brand is what you stand for in the mind of your audience. So if your audience is a group of customers, then it's the thing that you mean to your customers. If you're a person, then it's a thing that you mean to whatever audience you are in a given context, maybe future employers. So it's this crystallized meaning of why you exist, what you uniquely bring to your audience. And the reason that I keep using this word single or singular or single-minded is that when you stand for one idea, it's easier for your audience to grasp it than if you stand for multiple ideas. Or
why is that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. And the reason is actually really basic biology, basic neurobiology. It's easier for a person to let in one idea than multiple. So if you think of the way that you learn about anything, you usually are like, oh, that's kind of like this other thing that I know. Skiing is a little bit like snowboarding, only you're on two different boards instead of one. And when you kind of spray a bunch of ideas out, it's just harder neurologically for our audience to understand. It's in our interest for our audience to be able to understand, because then they're more likely to, 1, remember us, 2, like us, and 3, talk about us if they understand it. So it's kind of up to us as individuals and as business leaders to make it easy for them by distilling it for them. It's not their job to distill it. It's our job to distill it.
Well, makes sense. And I think that's where I've gotten it wrong in the past. And many of us as small business owners have gotten it wrong, where we automatically think, well, they'll figure it out. Or we just assume. I think that's a bad word when it comes to marketing.
It's true. I mean, it's kind of comes back to human nature, which is that when we, in a way, what we're talking about is empathy, kind of perspective taking. What's it like to be your audience? What's it like to be your customer? And in most cases, you or your company is not the center of the universe for your customer. They have a lot of other things going on in their lives and their minds and their jobs than your value proposition as a business. So when you when you crystallize it into something not small, but specific and precise, it is more using their worldview rather than your worldview to make it easier for them to buy what you're trying to sell, whether that's a product or an idea. It's really about empathy.
Yeah, very interesting on that. And I think that having empathy and empathetic side is what makes it that much more makes it more human, right? And makes me as a buyer want to better connect with you because I feel that you understand me.
Yes, I think exactly. I think what sometimes we forget as businesses is that we're not selling to a machine or an inanimate object. We're selling to a human being. And that human being has, joys and sorrows and scarcities and worries and sources of pride and a lot of things that make up what's meaningful in their lives. And when those people feel seen as such, seen as human beings, they're really more likely to bond with you, to want to like you as a person, or if you're representing a business, then it's still sort of a human-like connection if you're seeing them as the complicated and multi-layered entity that they are.
You kind of hit upon some of this already, but in the book, you talk about deconstructing brand. Do you mind talking to that for a minute?
You got it. Yeah. Stepping back, one of the motives for writing this book is I noticed how wildly variable people's definitions were of brand. And, to some people, I heard, oh, yeah, we have a brand. It's the name of our business. Or we have a logo. Or we don't do brand because we don't do TV advertising. Or we're a B2B company, so we don't do brand because we serve businesses, not consumers. Or we have a small budget, so we don't think about brand. And what I concluded, based on how broadly distributed these definitions were, that the word brand was just becoming problematic. And so I wanted to demystify it and just break it down to its root. What does it actually mean? Mm-hmm. And because all of those things, there's some merit to all of those interpretations. Logo is an expression of brand. Your brand name is an expression of brand. If you are the kind of business that does TV advertising, hopefully that is an expression of your brand. But to say that it is equivalent to brand it's kind of like It's saying that I am my name and my outfit instead of that just being an expression or the thing that I happen to be wearing today. My personhood, my meaning in this world is not my name. That's kind of a strange thing to say. And that's actually what we are saying when we say brand is our name or brand is our logo. So before having a useful conversation about brand, I felt that it was really important to level set and kind of bust these myths about what brand isn't. Otherwise, we're going to keep having these kind of puzzling conversations where somebody thinks that you're talking about brand as a logo and the other person is thinking brand is the heart and soul of the business. And so they're really not communicating. So that was what was behind that. And that's why I start every conversation about brand with how I define it, which is brand is the meaning you stand for. It's the thing that you mean to your target audience. And everything else is an expression or an activation of that meaning. It's not the same thing as saying it's the meaning.
Yeah. Now you broke this down to as far as the 9 criterias, right, of Ironclad brand strategy. Would you be willing to share with us those 9? I know we're not going to be able to go into depth on each and every one of them full in details, but you can at least give us a breakdown and then we can pick a few and talk about them. Is that okay?
I love that. Yes. And the background, the reason that I defined the 9 criteria for an Ironclad brand strategy is that there's this insight that not all brand is created equally. So, your business or your personhood, you have a brand. Your business has a brand, whether you're deliberately creating it or passively letting it be created. And chances are, if you're not actively, consciously, deliberately claiming that meaning, then you're not going to wind up in a favorable place. You're not going to have the brand position that you would like to have. So I developed these criteria to help evaluate from the infinite directions you could go for creating your brand, to help you evaluate which are the ones that are going to be the most favorable for creating value for your business. Okay, so that's the purpose here. The 9 criteria are: number 1, big. Your brand needs to be big enough to matter to your customer. Number 2, narrow. It must be narrow enough that you own. So it's big enough to matter, but it's narrow enough that you own it. It's asymmetrical. That's number 3. So it uses your lopsided advantage as a business, as a person, as a nonprofit, as an entity to position with this pinpointed precision to your customer, something that only you can do that others cannot copy. Number 4 is empathetic, which we talked about. It needs to address a deeply relevant and human need. Number 5 is it's optimally distinct, which means that it strikes a balance between being familiar, a familiar promise, while also having some novelty intrigue. It's not overly out there, and it's also not overly familiar and ho-hum. Number 6, it's functional and emotional. So it strikes this balance between both rationally meaningful to your target customer, but also emotionally resonant. So it's both. It serves the whole person. Number 7 is it's a sharp-edged promise. It's simple and singular. It's ridiculously clear what you do and do not stand for. That's sharp-edged. Number 8, it has teeth. So it's demonstrably true. It offers compelling, granular proof that you'll deliver on the promise that you're making. And lastly, number 9 is it delivers. It's something that you deliver on time and time again, consistently with everything you do, from the big things to the small things, from the new customers to the loyal customers. You're not just nailing the letter of the promise, but the spirit of the promise.
I know it's getting great, but we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, Lindsay's going to pick up where we left off and continue to break down and share some of these ideas, these things that can help you to forge and to create your own personal brand. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist Podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said,
Thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we pick up where we left off, Lindsay's going to continue to share these ideas and these thoughts that will help us to forge an ironclad brand. Well, one of them that I want to hit on is number 7, because I think that's going to apply so well to, so many of us as entrepreneurs and as sellers in this, no matter what it is in life, you really just need to be able to have that sharp, you need to know what you do and how to say it effectively. So do you mind speaking to that for a little bit and how you develop that?
Yeah, sharp edge. I kind of think of this, the image that comes to mind for me when I think of sharp edge is in vision. When you're perceiving an object that you're looking at, when there's a sharp edge around that object, it's easier to see it. Your eyes have to do less work to interpret what it is. So the sharper the edge, the easier it is to grasp. And ease is good because when you ask less of your audience, they're more likely to learn and remember and like what you're offering. So some examples of sharp-edged. First, let me give you a couple examples of good brands that really do employ this idea of sharp-edged. When I say Volvo, no matter where I am in the world, people give me some permutation of the word safe. They might say the safest car, or Volvo stands for safety, or it allows you to drive safely, or your family is safe. It is sharp-edged. They don't have a sports car. When you go to the Volvo dealerships, they have toy rooms for the kids to play in while the parents are test driving the cars. It is everything that they do reinforces the single-minded idea of safety. Same thing when I say Prius. Most people say something like fuel efficient. Now, a brand that does not have a sharp edge in this category of cars is Buick. So, I say Buick and you're laughing. Well, tell me what makes you laugh when I say that, Donald, when I say Buick?
Because you're right. They're like the hodgepodge. Well, a brand that they had before they made a change, I associated Buick being in Florida as old people mobile.
Yep.
And they did not associate that with themselves. But now they're trying, over the past 2 years, if you notice, they're trying to rebrand where it's like, is that a Buick? Is that a Buick? Those commercials. Because Yeah, I think they don't even know their audience doesn't know what to look for, because I saw this really cool car the other day. I'm like, oh, that's a Buick? I didn't know what they stand for.
I love that illustration, because if you think about, if you're the CEO of Buick, or pretend that they have a CEO, I guess GM would be their CEO, but if you are the P&L owner from Buick, how do you feel when your audience doesn't know what it means? Like, first of all, who even is the audience? Is it old people? Is it, is it a certain mindset? I don't know what it is. So I don't know who their audience is, and I don't know what it is that they mean specifically to that audience. I personally get kind of like old 80s, kind of big, heavy American car. That's about as close as I can get to what Buick stands for. So think of how much more work the marketing and salespeople have to do to sell a Buick than to sell a Volvo or a Prius.
Yeah.
Right? Like, somebody who is predisposed to value safety in their cars or fuel efficiency in their cars, they already are so far along in the process of considering and letting in the offering that if you go to a Buick dealership, I imagine that the dealers are trying to explain what's great about a Buick to somebody who has no idea. Whereas if you're going to the Volvo dealership, they're showing the passenger airbags, and they get to do the things that are really going to seal it, rather than having to sell every point of the funnel.
And here's the other part to this too. When you have this wide net, or this wide opening, so to speak, you're feeling that, yeah, everyone could come through my door. The problem is we don't even though your door is wide, we don't know that it exists, if that makes sense. So here's the thought that I'm thinking about. We're expecting our first little guy later this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so the cars and safety, we decided to go for, it was a Volkswagen. It's a nice little
Love
car.
it.
But, my wife's pretty decent too in their record. But if that's the case, we didn't have Buick on our radar, or we didn't have, I did actually have Volvos, one of them that I was looking at for personal for me, but we'll save that for another day. Like the way they look. But we now know where those doors are, and we could go and knock on the door or go in through that door. As opposed to the Buick, we don't know it wasn't even on the radar on a checklist. It wasn't like saying, well, let's go get a random car and then we'll end up with a Buick, but we want a car on safety, or we want a car that's good towards our, our good family values, or we want a car that's going to be a great gas mileage. And then we can focus based on those different categories. So that makes sense. In our research, in our customer preliminary research, if we can't think about you, you don't exist. And I think it's the same idea with anyone, no matter if you're selling B2B or B2C. If your customers can't think about where to look for you, then it doesn't matter. You could have the biggest, nicest location, but if we can't find it on our visual, or I guess our mental map, it doesn't exist.
It's such a perfect illustration of this fallacy that we, probably all of us humans, have, which is we think if we can keep the door open, if we can not choose, if we can not say who our target customer is and not say what we stand for everybody. We're at the car for anybody who's in the car market. We have this fallacy that that's going to help us. And the reality is that it's an illusion of an opportunity. When you don't choose, because if you think of just like you just did, Donald, if you think of your own behavior as a buyer, whether it's a consumer purchase or a purchase for your business or a purchase with what social media am I going to spend my purchase with my time and attention, you're always choosing something that's aligned with what your need is. You're not. And the more that business or that entity has put a stake in the ground, the more they have shown that they are authentic and the target customer can trust it. I don't trust somebody who doesn't take a stand on anything. I certainly don't trust for a $35,000 purchase a brand that can't say who they are. If I'm expected to part with my hard-earned money, then I expect them to part with taking some things off of the table where they don't have a right to win. So I think that you've kind of illustrated this paradox that when we feel fear, we like to keep the doors open. But in the process of doing that, we lose goodwill. And when you can show, I stand for this is what I'm optimizing for, people respect you more and they like you more. And they might not be your target audience. You might be turning off the people that are not the people you should be serving anyway. And that's okay, because that's time and money that you can then be doubling down on serving the people who are your bullseye customer.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is so true. I wish we could go on forever. And we didn't much scratch the surface with the book. Man,
I'd love to keep talking.
There's so much about this, but I felt that we hit on some of those key components. Is there anything that it's not anything, there's a lot that we missed. But is there...
One thing I'll just touch on is that this can feel intimidating and it can feel overwhelming and shrouded in mystique. And what I did in my book to help to demystify is I give a step-by-step guide, a process, a method for building the definition of your brand so that it doesn't have to feel like this kind of squishy exercise. So don't feel like just because you don't know how to do this, you don't have you don't know what to do you're like, okay, got it. Brand's important. Okay, Lindsay, got it. But how in the world do I do this? My book unveils the process that I use as a brand strategist myself to walk you through that so that you can double down on this single-minded idea that is going to create outsized value for your business. So I'd encourage listeners to think of that too. You don't have to just wait until the muses tell you what your brand is. You can deliberately craft it yourself with a process.
So good. So good. Well, Lindsay, if there's one major piece of advice that you would like folks to walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice from everything we discussed today?
My most basic piece of advice is to choose with crystal clarity who your target customer is. What is the precise and textured definition of who these people are? And I don't just mean demographic observations about them or firmographic observations, but what are they like? What are the things that keep them up at night? What do they value in life? Really hold your own feet to the fire and define who that person is. It doesn't mean that you don't sell to people that don't fall within this definition, but it does mean that you then optimize with humility this type of person to whom you're going to bring the greatest value.
Love it. Love that. Now, if folks out there listening to us, they're like, Lindsay makes sense. I want to learn more about her. I want to connect with her. You wrote a book. I kind of mentioned that, but do you mind telling us about your book and where they can find that as well?
You got it. My book is Forging an Ironclad Brand. It's available on Amazon, etc. And if listeners are interested, I have a free giveaway on ironcladbrandstrategy.com. It's a workbook that I adapted from the book, Forging an Ironclad Brand, that serves as a supplement to the book. And it shows this step-by-step workbook style guide that I was talking about earlier so that you can build a brand strategy yourself. So you can find that at ironcladbrandstrategy.com.
Love it. Well, I truly appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today. I appreciate you sharing these insights with us and just being so gracious and willing with your information. It definitely was an eye-opener. And I think that many of us are going to try to abandon our Buicks and focus and try to Buick mentality.
I love it. I really enjoyed talking to you, Donald. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Anytime. Man, I'm telling you, if you haven't done so already while listening to this episode, go ahead and swipe up on the cover art or go back to the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1101 and connect with Lindsay Pedersen. She knows her stuff. She's also on LinkedIn and really personable, so you can talk to her, you can message her, you can connect with her, like, comment, and engage with her. And I'm sure she'll be more than willing to point you to some of the things that's working for other organizations, for brands that she's helped, that can help you as well to stand out and to forge and to create a strong brand for yourself as an individual seller or as an organization. Again, find all the details in the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1101, or simply if you're on Apple Podcasts, just click up on the cover art, click on notes, and you'll see all the links and everything right there. Also, check out mailtag.io. They have a 14-day trial that you can take advantage of. And when you fall in love with Mailtag, you can use promo code Donald at checkout to get 50%, yes, 50% off your subscription for life. All the details are, again, right back in the show notes. And check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We open the first 2 modules for free if you go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. You'll see the course, you'll see the modules, you can test them out for yourself, fall in love with them, and then go ahead and take the whole thing. It would be an honor to have you join us. We share this stuff because we want to help you. We want you to find more ideal customers. We want you to be able to know what to say and to be able to guide them down the buyer's journey and build strong value. We want you to close more deals. And most importantly, it's to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Hey, thank you so much for listening today. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit subscribe. Show your friends, your colleagues how they can subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. It would be extremely appreciated. Thank you so much. It goes a long way. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mr. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.